Good evening and welcome to Mindful Life 270. I am your host Nathan Springer. Thank you for being here. It is the 14th of August. On this August month, on this August day and August occasion, it was the local government election for Trinidad and Tobago, where many people went out and voted for their local government representatives, the people that are supposed to be there in your community helping you out. Yeah. How did that go? I saw not too long ago on social media some political leader already claiming victory, even though technically speaking you don't claim victory like that in local government election, but it's all politics anyway. Stranger says, when you're creating your party, Nathan, I'm not creating a party, because my idea is that it's not the politics that would save people. You have to change the culture, you have to change the behavior, and that's what we talk about. We talk about the general ideas of the culture, the general idea of the norms that we have in society. So I think if you want to effect change the culture more than you change the party or start a party. Good evening, Scafty. Good night, Tony, the ambassador. Trinidad says, if life under PNM so hard, I only imagine when the one world government start and the Antichrist rise. Okay, three Nima. You see, these things I don't totally get. Like, PNM isn't the perfection of rule to me at all. But when you see things so hard, what exactly do you mean? I mean, the main issue in Trinidad and Tobago that makes things so hard is that crime situation. Crime is genuinely a serious problem, but beside crime, a lot of the other topics, if you're being honest, are a bit exaggerated. Both sides claimed victory. I guess looked at seats within the corporation. It's a normal thing. Change culture easier said than done. Them head hard. I agree. What's the word hummingbird? I 100% agree. I never said it was easy. Kieran says, in what year do you think crime will be abolished? In the year never. In the year when humans are no longer human. In the year when God Almighty takes over the entire world and throws all the bad people in hell and all the good people in the paradise to live perfectly forever. That's when crime would be abolished. Crime is a reality of human existence. So you're not going to get that abolished really and truly, but it could be decreased there. So let's not pretend like it's just pure coincidence why crime is high or low or something like that. There is the ability to decrease or increase it. Trinidad is actually not that bad. I agree, Nathan. It have potholes deeper than I am tall. I would drown if I fell in. I agree. Some roads are horrible. Aroni, I asked my parents what they think. One parent hated the PNM, one parent liked the PNM. I asked why. This man really said that things not that bad. Kerry Berry Titi. Kerry Berry Titi, please. I don't have, it's not yet time to join or discuss something, but please join the discussion. Let me invite you, Kerry Berry, and you could enter and explain to me on a balance of relativity, comparatively, all over the world. You say Trinidad is really bad. Where is better? And how are we that bad? And I gave the crime and murder, genuinely, Trinidad is horrible in that anywhere in the world, Trinidad is horrible. So, beside the crime and murder, which country in the world is so much better than Trinidad? Which country would you call better than Trinidad, really? Crime, employment, food prices, home ownership almost impossible. Healthcare bad, the roads bad. All right, well, crime genuinely bad. Employment not nearly as bad as nearly anywhere else in the world. I don't know where else in the world has, generally speaking, easier employment opportunity than Trinidad. Trinidad has a lot of employment opportunity. Food prices are relative compared to the world. In terms of your ability to buy food, no one in Trinidad is actually starving. That's not happening. Home ownership almost impossible. I agree. The land prices and house prices in Trinidad are ridiculous. But that is actually telling you something about the wealth, the general wealth of the country also. Healthcare bad, agreed. But Healthcare is a difficult thing to perfect anywhere in the world. You ask Canadians, they would tell you their healthcare is bad too. You ask Americans, they would tell you their healthcare is bad. You ask people in England, they would tell you that the NHS is bad. The roads genuinely are bad. All right. Well, you know what's funny to hear how we complain about everything, but at the end, Kieran says Portugal. Okay. Maybe Singapore. Michelle, I assure you, Trinidadians do not want to live in Singapore. Those laws in Trinidad, the country of carnival, no, we don't want to live in Singapore. So you have to understand sometimes the trade-offs that we get. All right, but this isn't exactly where I'm going with some of the discussion this evening. I saw I saw a bit of an article jumping out about this pretty pipe. I heard Japan has nearly zero crime. Well, here's the thing, Trini Mav. Japan is 90-something% one ethnic group. If you go to an island, reproduce, and it's only your family lives on the island, the next 2,000 years, I could assure you the crime rate would be pretty low. Also, Japan does not have a young population. Japan has an old, very old aging population. They're probably going to die out too. Sorry to say, but yes, so they don't even have that large youth culture because crime and criminality is vastly done by 16 to 24 age bracket, at least violent crime. So they don't have young people. They don't have a multicultural society. Multicultural societies in and of themselves create problems, and they have one old mature culture. So yes, Japan is different. Whew, I'm not reading that, Aaron. The question was which country was better. I would rather low crime. It's really bad here. I agree, Michelle, that I would rather low crime. But what I'm saying is when you're comparing which country is better, because people say, what I was speaking about is when people are saying things are really bad, you have to look at things in a real, genuine comparison. Weigh all things together. So yes, you may prefer the lower crime of Japan, but would you be okay with the racism? They may not want you or your kind or your family there. And they, you see, in some of those cultures, in the West where racism is an issue, we talk about racism incessantly. In some of those cultures, racism is irrelevant. It's the norm. What do you mean we're racist? Of course we're racist. I don't like other races. Duh. It's the way many of those other cultures go. All right. So we're jumping into the article there. I saw an article coming out from some bacchanal going on over on Instagram. Japan would give us the blight they like soca, man. Temporarily. I would like to live in Singapore. Rules are amazing. Trinidad can never be that disciplined. All right, okay. You go right ahead. You go right ahead. See if you can get in there. Some people say those things, but the reality of the situation for some people is oftentimes not so. Some people who talk about, Trinidad like too much indiscipline. These people don't know how to keep rules. And if you look into their lives at how they keep rules, you'll be like, oh, okay, I see. We have to doughlarize the entire nation. Thunimav says, well, I'm doing my part. Woo! All right, okay. Of course, you have user. So we're jumping into an article. I saw, how many of you saw this Pretty Pipers bacchanal breaking out over on Instagram there? I never actually looked at any of the pages. I just saw the conversations up there. And I didn't even know the issue got this big, where it reached to the news. Apparently, and it seems like nearly like a hydra. They clamp down on one Pretty Pipers page and 5 more pop up. Which one of you all are running these Pretty Pipers pages? People are very upset over them. You need to cease and desist. But I think this kind of shows some of the intrinsic problems of the internet age and social media. There are some things that just become harder to deal with. It's like it's like when cars became a thing, then road traffic accidents, having to look both ways when you cross the road, walking the road became a more dangerous reality. You can't undo the reality of the invention of cars and the popularization of cars on every street. You can't undo that. So now you have to train your young people how to use the roads. They can't use the roads all willy-nilly because somebody will lick them down. And now I think we're seeing some of that on the internet social media side, where you can't be using social media all willy-nilly and free. Yes, it's unfair that some of those things and some of the realities are there, but the realities are there, and there's nothing that anyone can really do to stop it. Roni says, that was crazy. My little cousin showed me and I had to tell her, flee my presence. I don't want no pretty pipers girl now. That is shame. All right. Let's jump into the article. Let's see what this article says about this. The predators of pretty pipers. Intimate images of young girls shared online. When teenage Alicia's images were posted among the many predatory Pretty Pipers Instagram pages last week, her world imploded, leaving her fighting off intense thoughts of suicide and self-harm. Alicia, a minor whose name has been altered to protect her identity, discovered in the late hours 2 Sundays ago that the intimate photos she had been pressured to take by an older classmate had been shared to an audience of thousands, screenshotted and reshared within the span of hours. Now, I don't know if Alicia was really pressured into taking those pictures. And sometimes I find that the talk of coercion and pressure and stuff comes conveniently in hindsight sometimes. The reality is, though, coerced or not, your content is the content out there. Dalip Jairam says, I love Trinidad, but sometimes I'm angry at how politics have divided us, also the corruption. Yep. Hey Nathan, where you think Melania Trump is with all this drama? Hi from Palm Beach. I think she's in her mansion living the life that she expected to live. I don't think she's bothered really and truly. I don't know, unless she's really in love with Donald and his personal stresses really bother her, which I am unsure about. But unless that might be the case, she doesn't really have anything to worry about. She is going to be wealthy very likely for the rest of her life. Her children are going to be wealthy for the rest of her life. Her grandchildren are going to be wealthy for the rest of their life. You know, she isn't worried about that. She isn't worried about that. All that going on out there, yes, Trini Hotep. All that going on out there. As soon as they get caught is some foolish stories, Rome says. You know, Rome, in a discussion I was talking with some young men in a school, one of these school discussions I had, I was telling the young men about this. The reality is, for a lot of young men, yes, there might be Romeo and Juliet laws where if you're under a certain age but over a certain age and you get caught in certain activities, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to go to jail. But very often you see this if you work in and around school children. Very often you see this. A couple is caught, school age couple, underage couple, is caught doing big people business, and very often the young lady of the couple says, this was unwanted. This was coerced upon me. And I mean, it's her word against his word. Who is to say who? And in terms of that, that's why the advice to a young man in many of those situations is just to not go there. To stay away from situations like that, because the chances of you getting into trouble is higher. You put yourself into a place where, yes, this young lady could lie about you. It could have been all consensual. In fact, she could have been the one calling down your phone. But when the gobar hits the fan and starts splattering asunder, and the tales start being told, which tale would be believed? So in that case, even though you may be a victim as a young man, the blame is on the victim in to some extent. Yes, you might be a victim, but the blame is on you. Do not allow yourself to be victimized. Stay clear from those situations. And similarly then, to me, on the flip side, yes, as a young lady, you could be coerced to send pictures of a more intimate type. People could pressure you to do that. You over the phone, what else is there? After you're done talk all the words you have in your vocabulary, you need something else to, get this conversation spicy. So we want to get some audio visual content going here. And you could be pressured into it. The mood starts to swing a certain way. It's after 12 and you're on your phone. Okay. But bear in mind, yes, you sent it to one guy, but if he decides to send it to others, or if he loses his phone, or if somebody hacks his phone, or any of those other eventualities, and you find yourself on a Discord server or in a Signal thread or one of those other apps, you are the victim. That's unfortunate. It should have never happened. But what's going to be done? What could have been done? To me, the solution is blame the victim. My solution for a lot of these things is blame the victim. It's like crossing the road. If you get knocked down while crossing the road, the car is going to the straightener and painter, you are going to the morgue very likely. So here's what's going to happen. When we're talking, we're going to treat you like we're blaming the victim. Yes, the car might knock you down. The car might knock you down on the pavement, but that's why you need to pay attention. Trini Hotep says, listen man, things used to be going down in the WhatsApp groups. It goes down in the DMs. We live in a culture where one cries wolf, we victim blame over here. Rooney says, Trini Mav says, nope, not a teen, but I see girls willingly do stuff, and when they get caught, they say grapes. Yep, that's true. Very true. Very often. I work with teens for a while. It's very, very common. Very common. Listen, you can nearly predict it. If someone is underage and the relationship becomes known to the parents when the parents banned it, the parents forbade it, and it becomes known to the parents, high likelihood some tales are going to be told there. And the youth man very often comes out on the bad end of that. The young lady went on though, isolated and afraid to bring shame on her parents. She told Express last week that she wished she could disappear after reporting the posts to Meta, Instagram's parent company. She had hoped to end a week-long campaign of cyberbullying that had tainted multiple minors on the platform. But it would take 2 attempts and over 24 hours before the posts had been removed by the faceless account owner on Monday. By then, Alicia told the Express the damage was done. And of course, someone already screenshotted that, someone already shared it. It's irrelevant. Getting it pulled down is irrelevant at that point. It's already out there. Well, clearly you all victim blame, but some things you all have to know when to actually do that. But I digress. The young lady says, my father, since he heard about it, has not talked to me. I haven't talked to him since it happened. I am seeing him when he comes home, but he is not talking to me. I feel like I always bring shame to my household. I don't know how to go outside, to be out there, to communicate with anyone. It is hard to open up because I don't know who to trust, she said. Now, this is very unfortunate. That's sad. That's sad. I don't wish that on anyone. But wouldn't it have been to more avail to have gone through these thoughts of disappointment and shame before you sent the pictures? You see, that's the thing. Those thoughts of shame and disappointment were supposed to be had before you sent the pictures. So you tell the youth man, I would be real shame if my father found out about this, so no. Despite a TTPS condemnation of the emergence of the Pretty Pipers trend on Tuesday, over 60 accounts remained active on Instagram by late last week, several continuing to post defamatory, suggestive, and explicit content of minors and adults on their platforms. Now, the young lady in question here revealed that she believes a lot of these accounts are actually handled by minors themselves, 15, 16-year-olds, who are creating these accounts, and they're sharing content about other 15, 16-year-olds. And this is the thing. How do you stop something like this? They create the account, they share the content on their stories, they share a few posts, maybe within a day you get it brought down, but the content is already there. They create another email, create another account, and do it again. And when you're talking about children here, these are people with time to waste. Children have no work to do. You know, they don't have a job to do in the morning. Many of them probably not doing too well in their schoolwork, so they don't even have a book to pick up. They have a lot of extra time on their hands, some children. So what's to stop them from doing it again? And again, and again, and again. And I understand there's a victim support group here, the Humanitarian Foundation for Positive Social Change, which has infiltrated hundreds of predator networks online and filed a constitutional motion to compel the state to investigate child pornography, told the Express that the TTPS Child Protection Unit last week indicated that it had received multiple reports on the accounts. The unit, the foundation says it was told, was trying to determine how to deal with the incoming reports. Exactly. What do they do? What do they do? Good night, Princeton. That's my question for this. You want the police to do something. You want that unit, the child protection unit, to go out there and do something. But what can they realistically do? Only way to stop it is to find someone and make an example out of them. And Bali, here's the problem with that, because according to one of the victims here, they believe these pages are being run by minors. That creates several problems right there. For one, getting the personal contact information of a minor could be tricky. Getting personal contact information of anybody from Instagram could be tricky. Even if you could somehow find out the email address or find out the IP address, and somehow you could backtrace this and find the human child, which is very unlikely. But if you could, what example are you going to make of a 16-year-old child for sharing content online? What's the example? You're going to send them to prison? For how long? What would the charge be? You know, these are tricky things. How exactly do you make an example of someone like that? Send them to ITC. If you could catch them. If you could catch them. Yeah, and that's the next thing. Would that actually be a benefit in the long term? Would someone be helped by going to ITC? Or are you just going to create a next monster in the next couple of years? And would that actually stop the trend? Because bear in mind, there are 60 accounts, over 60 accounts that were created. That doesn't sound like one person. And they are copycats. How are you going to stop that? You want me to tell you how to stop that? You have to stop them from being able to get content. How do you stop them from getting content? make sure you don't take pictures of your tender parts and share them out there. That's the only way to stop it, by stop giving them the content. Other than that, once they have content, they're going to share it. There's nothing you could really do to stop it like that. The internet has just become so powerful of a tool. And maybe, I remember speaking about this, United Nations proposed banning smartphones for all teenagers, all school children. And that might actually be an idea, because the reality is these children are not able to handle the amount of power that is in their hand. And I think on the parent side, many parents don't fully comprehend the amount of power they are putting in their child's hand also. Or when you're taking pictures, leave your face out of it. What's the word hummingbird? That's a bad idea. That's a bad idea. Your body is unique. Your body is unique. Leaving your face out isn't going to help if your husband sees your body on the Pretty Pipers page. Leaving your face out isn't going to help when the people who share the image share a real picture of you and say, hey, this is Natalie Joe. Look, Natalie Joe here. Because that's what they do on those pages. On those links, on those Discord servers, they share an unknown picture, an anonymous picture, and someone is going to ask, who is this? Anybody had the info on this person? And someone is going to find it out. They're going to find you out. That's a bad idea, bad advice. Don't leave your face out. Leave your body out. Don't take the picture. If there's no picture taken, there's no picture to share. I believe they handle the power well. You believe so? I don't think so. I don't think most teenagers handle the power well. Even if they stop sending pics, they just repost old content. Well, old content is old content, and you'd be surprised, old content just does not have the same appeal. There's always old content, but few pages reliably post old content. So yes, that's a good problem. Let them post the old content. That's not too much of an issue. Old content, you can't do anything about that. But stop giving them new content. That's the issue. Every year there are thousands of new pictures out there. Wait, deadlock in local government. I'm not keeping up with that right now. I'll read that on the post-mortem. I can't take all the to and fro with that. Next article, jumping straight ahead there, in the idea of crime and criminality and how to deal with certain things in the more nuanced perspectives. Bali says, and I think finding the person's easier than getting thirsty youths to stop sending pics. I don't think so. I don't think so. I don't think finding the person is easier. All those youths have parents. There are some youths who don't send pictures. That's reality. There are some children who don't send pictures. Go ask their parents how they did it, the magic they used, and do the same. You see, the problem is, Bali, I don't like this modernist thinking where negative thing is going to happen anyway, so let's facilitate negative thing. There was this idea when I was in school, when they started sex education and they were saying they don't want to use abstinence as a model because children are going to have sex anyway, so let's not even speak about. Wait, if you think this isn't the best way, should you facilitate this unideal thing, or should you go for the ideal? And if the unideal thing happens, then you make accommodations. I need one of those young men. When it comes to social media, we are operating in their world. Whose world? The children's world? I don't agree. I think that's a fallacy. I don't think the social media was created by children. It was created by adults. And the the themes and orientation of social media isn't for children. Social media is not a children's app. It's like having children inside of a casino. Obviously, the children would be the ones that play most of the games, that run around the casino the most. Yes, they will enjoy a casino, but it's not really a children's atmosphere, a child atmosphere. And I feel you there. It's just realistically getting them to stop will take some time. I agree, but then is the cultural thing. Maybe you don't have the smartphones. That's one way. If they don't have the camera and they don't have the ability to send pictures, they can't take and send pictures. Children now are grown up with no respect for people, place, thing, nor themselves, Kim Oliver says. And find out who's doing it wouldn't be as hard as you think. Children snitch a lot. Children also lie a lot. And to use children snitching to put someone into YTC, bad idea. Bad idea. As a dean in school, snitches are my main source of info. Yes, agreed. Children do snitch a lot, but I'm just saying they lie a lot. They do. Some of those snitches be lying. I went to school. Some of these snitches lie. They build their narratives. Now teenager eyes are clear. They need 1080 of. This is a game for their body, but fine. All right. Understood. Hear this editorial here. Deportation dilemma. From the moment that 200 Venezuelans were detained at the Apex bar in St. James, questions were raised. What happened that Sunday morning to merit such a sweeping crackdown? The Venezuelan migrants were taken to the Defense Force heliport in Chaguaramas pending deportation. Soon afterward, 40 migrants were released after interviews with immigration authorities, and within a week, 78 holders of UN Refugee Agency cards were conditionally released. Christian Williams, an attorney representing detainees, suggested that the detentions might have unwelcome anti-LGBT overtones and unpleasant nuance to the story. Here's my question. Is that a problem? Let me paint the picture clearer. There are illegal Venezuelans in Trinidad and Tobago. Some of them were found having an LGBTQIA2+ party in Port of Spain, St. James. They were held, many of them deported. There are allegations being made that the reason all of this was done so swiftly had something to do with the fact it was an LGBTQIA2+ party. Yes, Wide Leather, the same lawyer from last week. My question is if that is true, if it is true, is that a problem? Bear in mind, LGBTQIA2+ activities, by and large, are not within our law books and not within our culture. Say what you want about it. Maybe you are more Americanized and you enjoy rainbow flags more than the average Caribbean person. But bear in mind, it is not the norm in the Caribbean. Is it wrong then for a Caribbean country to focus more on people who are flouting the norms of the country while also breaking the laws? Is that a wrong thing? It's like, imagine I go to India and I know killing a cow in their religious cultural norms is forbidden. I wouldn't doubt there may be some animal abuse laws inside of the Indian legal framework. that has something to do with that. Imagine I go sneak into India. I don't belong there. And then they find me running an undercover steakhouse, slaughtering cows and trying to sell it on the low inside of India. Okay. On the objective standpoint, maybe nothing is wrong with eating a cow, as far as nothing is wrong with eating an animal. But on the subjective standpoint of the Indian culture, I know that's not within their cultural framework. And I'm already there illegal breaking their law. Would it be surprising, negative in some way of them to want to get me out of their country ASAP? I don't actually see the issue here. And the author goes on to say that it seems like Trinidad. Let's see the and even in this, let's read this. On Saturday, 97 Venezuelans were removed from the heliport, conveyed with an armed motorcade to return home on the passenger vessel, the Galleon's Passage. So you see, a high court judge, one judge, stayed the deportation, and then another judge stayed the hold and the deportation. And as soon as one judge okayed that deportation, the government sped through and deported them within 2 days. In under 2 days, they got them out of the country. And some people wouldn't like things like that, because maybe if they were left in the country for a while longer, they would have been able to make another legal. But isn't that the government's intention to some extent? And even in this, 10 women remained behind because they have children in Titi and their cases were said to be under evaluation. So even still, the women with children in Trinidad and Tobago, they were left here. If you don't have a child in this country, you go back. I don't see the issue here. The state's inferred position on Venezuelan migrants has always been a grudging acceptance of a responsibility to help. But the situation at the heliport represents an unusual enthusiasm to be rid of the least desirable of TT's migrant population. Justice Musai's stay of the order of release was not itself an order to deport. It put the matter back in the hands of the government, and the government deported them. I want to know, like some of the people, this author seems to be more preferential to doing more for the Venezuelans. I would like to know, where do they see this stopping? Where do they see this stopping? Okay, you want to help the Venezuelans. How many do we help? I do not see the logical basis in this kind of bleeding heart statement here. It just seems to me like some people who have bought into liberal Americanized culture, and they just take the talking points from there and bring them wholesale over here. Okay, yes, they were in an LGBTQIA plus rainbow party, and that's what drew the attention and it allowed them to be deported. What's the problem with that? No one said they hated them as humans. No one attempted to kill anyone. You were breaking the law, and you brought attention to yourself while breaking the law. What is the surprise? Trinimav says, dog, they need to send all the Veni men back. We have too much man in Trinidad. That's not going to happen. But you know, in olden days, like if you're talking 3,000 plus years ago and stuff, if it was a migration happening and things were hard over there, the women and children could come. But in many olden cultures, they aren't letting the men in, and they had reasons for doing those things. All right, we're moving swiftly along to the next story in line. You know, last week we were talking. I'm gonna take a sip of my coffee, yes? uh, that is true, Rooney. That is true. The thirst is real. And if the women alone are here, they may pauperize some of the Trini men too. So maybe it's best that the Venezuelan women come with their husbands so that the Trini men could see, hey, this woman has a husband. You're reminding her family when you're giving her money there. So they could bat in their crease. But moving well along, from Venezuela we move to China. We're talking about another socialist country here, another country where the government believes that they can control everything. And last week, we were talking about the multipolar world, where the world is moving away from the unipolar reality, where it just had the United States, the USA, the United States of America as the one main global power. And that global power basically effected change all around the world. Nearly anything that happens anywhere in the world has something to do, had something to do with what the US wanted or what the US pushed. However, the world is changing. China, through some of their initiatives, are now getting a stronger and stronger foothold in areas all around the world. And we were talking about that last week, the ramifications of things like that, where like even the issue you're just talking about, the LGBTQIA2+ issues in Trinidad and Tobago, where a lot of it is actually it's pushed. It's a kind of cultural supremacy leaking down from the United States into the Caribbean, etc. You may think it's a good thing for the culture. You could have that opinion, but bear in mind it is coming from somewhere. It isn't intrinsic to the culture. It's coming from outside the culture and leaking into the culture. And the reality is that some of those things happen because we were aligned in the unipolar world to the United States. But now, where China is flexing their muscle and they're showing it more and more and more, the world, I think, is set up to become very interesting in the coming years. Let's look at that article on the TT Guardian. TNT-China relations have deepened with Belt and Road Initiative. In 2019, TNT became the first CARICOM country whose trade with China exceeded $1 billion, says Chinese Ambassador Fang Kui. We were the first Caribbean country to exceed $1 billion in trade. Now, for some people, you might not understand what that means to your everyday life, but that brings money into the country. Some people are being paid a salary based off of that $1 billion in trade that we're doing with China. And you see, these are things that China offers. China has a unique opportunity to offer the world. China has the opportunity to offer the world not only very cheap manufacturing, so you could get nearly all of your cheapest manufacturing done there. They, on the other side, also offer the world a massive consumer base. That's why Hollywood is bowing to China. That's why NBA is bowing to China. There are billion plus eyes, pairs of eyes that are looking at your content over there. So if you could get them all as customers, if each Chinese person pays $1, that's over $1 billion you get already. There's a market, a massive, massive market. I don't know wide leather. I don't know. I don't think loans would be classified as trade in this case. By 2022, he said, our bilateral trade volume surpassed $1.31 billion US, more than doubled the value before joining the Belt and Road Initiative, Kui added. In 2018, this country became the first Caribbean country to sign on to the Belt and Road Initiative, propelling TNT's practical cooperation in various fields to a new stage. We are the trailblazers in Caribbean cooperation with China. The CCP is very strategic. That they are Trini Hotep. That they indeed are. The ambassador went on. He said, I'm happy to be informed that TNT Fine Cocoa Company, is cooperating with a chocolate producer in Hainan, China. and tons of fine cocoa products will be exported to China soon. Now the two countries are coordinating closely in the implementation of the Forensic Science Center project to contribute to the social security of TNT, Kui added. Lots of things to do. Lots of things to do. They're also talking about partnering Shanghai and Port of Spain are to be twinned as sister cities. According to Kui, China has embarked on a new journey toward building a modern socialist country in all respects and will advance the rejuvenation of the Chinese nation on all fronts through a Chinese path to modernization. He added that China's new journey will not only reinvigorate its own development, but also create fresh opportunities for the world. The ambassador reiterated that China will continue to promote high standard opening up and effective integration of domestic and international markets and resources, provide more market investment and growth opportunities for its Belt and Road partners, including TNT. Speaking on a larger scale, Kui noted that the Belt and Road Initiative offers a path of solidarity for global partners, stating that it is a global public good that practices true multilateralism, where everyone can discuss together, build together, and share together. Now, here's the importance of what he's saying there. Here's the importance of what he's saying there. He says this is a truly multilateral organization and initiative where everyone actually gets to discuss together. You see, that's in juxtaposition or in opposition to the US initiatives, where it's not a true multilateral relationship. Everyone doesn't get to discuss the policies. The G5 discuss the policies, and then they dictate to the others what the policies are going to be. China is saying here, and what they are offering, and I must say it is tempting. It is indeed tempting. They are offering, what they say they are offering is pure economic trade basis relationships, where we discuss what we want to trade economically with each other. We don't have to force our views on you. You don't have to force your views on us. We have real open table discussions on these matters, and the rising tide would raise all of our ships. And I mean, they're investing in it. There's over, I believe, $1 trillion or trillion US dollars already invested in the Belt and Road Initiative. It's connecting Africa, it's connecting Latin America, it's connecting South Asia. Not only would you open up China as a trade partner, you open up now Africa and those emerging economies as trade partners, linking through the Belt and Road Initiative. These are tempting offers. And what does the US offer in exchange? New York Street to be co-named Trinidad and Tobago. TT Nationals in Queens, New York City will soon have a street co-named in their homeland's honor, as 131st Street will also be called Trinidad and Tobago Street. The office of the New York City Council's speaker confirmed this to Newsday. The co-naming ceremony will be held on Sunday afternoon at the intersection of 131st Street and Liberty Avenue. In a press release, the NGO Trinidadians and Tobagonians USA said it had been petitioning for the co-naming of the commercially bustling street for quite a few years. The organization's spokesman, Dr. Ashford Maharaj, said this is a fitting recognition of Caribbeanness, as this street is adjacent to another street named Little Guyana. So apparently we get ours a little later than Little Guyana. Don't you love when the big boys fight and the little boys really get next to nothing? Well, the thing is, Trini Hotep, the name is next to nothing. But over $1 billion US in trade from the Belt and Road Initiative is not next to nothing. from an economical point of view, it seems like China is genuinely offering a lot better than the US is offering. A lot of what the US offers is based on their position of hegemony, their position of cultural supremacy. So they think that, you know, everyone wants something from America linked to them. So giving Trinidad and Tobago an American street named Trinidad and Tobago Street, here, you all have that. You could kiss the pinky ring. Oh, you'd enjoy kissing that pinky ring now, won't you? Here you go. Give it a kiss. I know you want to kiss it. Give it a kiss. Yeah. Yes, kiss it. Yes, there you go. And that's the basis that they do that on. We have that cultural adulation for them. It's like in the United States, when so many black people are saying, you know, yeah, I'm hurt about this issue and this social issue, and this isn't working for me, and this isn't working for me. You know what they do? Because they understand that the American culture has that supremacist place, cultural supremacy. I'm not talking white here, I'm talking American cultural supremacy. Out of Hollywood, they give you the Black Panther. Give you a black actor acting in a fictitious African country on a superhero story where it was written by white people, and oh, you're going to like that. Here, have a kiss of the pink ring again. Kiss that pink ring. You like that, don't you? Yes. You like, yes. Kiss the pink. Yes, yes. And many black people do kiss that pink ring. They enjoy that. That little taste of the American culture in your own way is all that some people need. Ooh, we had our own movie coming out from Hollywood. Yay! Hey, there's a cartoon mermaid that they colored a little more brown. Yay! And China is pointing out some of these things. This is why I think the initiative that China is doing is becoming so successful. So for some of those African countries, we don't want, the African countries say, we don't want your cultural views. We don't want it. It isn't beneficial to us. We do not want it. It is a sickness. We do not want that. And we would like some economic help. We would like some trade with you. It does help us. But we don't want the cultural strings attached. And if China is offering that, which would they take? And maybe, as some people do point out, some of those China arrangements do have strings attached, and some of these strings may not be as obvious coming up front. And China plays the long game because their government isn't worried about the 5-year election cycle. They don't have to worry about re-election in the next 5 years. They could legitimately plan for 30, 40, 50 years down the road, and they do things like that. So maybe this thing might be in the tail in the long run, but you can't blame countries looking at it in the short run for why certain deals do look a lot more appealing, because they do look a lot more appealing. Wide Leather says Trini is major in the minors. A name street will satiate us. How will we tangibly benefit? Exactly. China plays the long game well. I give them that. Well, yes, they do. But that has to do with the nature of an authoritarian government. They don't worry about the next election cycle. They don't have to worry about re-election. You see, for Dr. Rowley, his plans must be encapsulated in a 5-year basis. Even if he's thinking about going up for re-election, you're not sure to win that. So if you really have a plan for the country, you have to have it encapsulated in that 5-year bracket. That's the nature of the way our elections goes. But if we had a dictator that was in control of this country for the next 60 years, they won't have to do it. But the non-disclosures we have with China are red flags. Indeed, they are. And this kind of signals that there is a sting in the tail. It signals that everything isn't as it seems. It's not just that China is doing this out of the kindness of their heart and, you know, they just want to boost the economy all around them. And personally, I think they are going through they're attempting to become colonists. They are at that point in the movement of their society. They are attempting to exert power across the globe. That's what colonial powers did, and they're doing the same thing, just in their new way. They're doing neo-colonialism. They're finding a new way to get power inputted and enforced onto other countries. What you gonna do? What you gonna do? If it's a big fun and if it's a big pond and they're a big fish, it's a big pond and you're a little fish. What are you going to do about it? Yeah. All right, people. That's all I have for now, you know. We're looking to call it a night. There any more comments or questions inside of the chat? Which superpower has or is doing anything out of the goodness of their heart? None. I don't think any. I don't think any do that. I've been liking for 10 minutes. What's that? I don't understand what you're saying there, Ronnie. Oh. Thank you. Thank you, Ronnie. That's your job inside. You know, I don't know if J. Chris on the inside. I would give J. Chris that props in the earlys, you know. J. Chris and the twins. But the twins too. The twins, the Chinese Douglas twins. They were the like bantams. They were always there bullying people to like more. Good stuff in the earlys. Easy, so live going on more than a year. Wow, time flies. Any questions or comments inside of the live, people? If you are viewing this on repeat over there on YouTube, make sure you hit that like button, share the live for those who may enjoy this kind of content. Be sure to hit that like button. It really does help the algorithm. And, you know, tell people about the live. When you talk to people, you know, regularly people comment and, hey, this live's supposed to have more people in it, you know. This thing's supposed to have more people. You make sense? Well, if you want that, tell people about it. Tell them join in TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube nightly around that 9:30 p.m. time. I'll have to listen to this tomorrow because Daddy kept my attention whole time. Yeah, I hope you're talking about your actual father there, Rooney. Ha! Antonio, did you vote? I have voted before. Yes, I've voted before. Do you prefer guns or reform? Guns and reform. I think guns should be part of the reform. I don't think it's a sensible prospect that a people shouldn't be able to defend themselves. I think self-defense, the ability for self-defense, should be a human right. I do think so. That's why I agree with the Americans' view of their Second Amendment, where they see it as a right. It's not a privilege imbued to you by the government. It's a right, and I agree with that. Now, I understand in the Trinidad and Tobago context that's not going to happen, so I could work with license and all of that, but reform and license and all of that. But to me, I think the ability to defend yourself should be a human right. Like, no one should be removing your ability to defend yourself. That shouldn't be a thing. All right. Any other questions or comments, people? Or is that it? If that is it, I'll be calling it a night. And go and hug up Mini Mindful and take a rest. Rooney says she just wants to say one thing. What do you want to see? Down with collectivism. Power to the people. Well, power to the individual people. I agree with that, Rooney. Collectivism is a bad thing. It doesn't work for us. Let me rephrase that. I like collectivism, but collectivism is supposed to be all based on free choice. My collective should be the people that I want to be my collective. So I'm a collectivist with my family. We pool resources. We put our own resources to work. Someone who is weaker, we give them more resources. Someone who has more resources gives some more. I'm a collectivist with my family. You know, the statement is you're a communist with your family, a socialist with your community, and individualist on your national perspective. As it goes wider, you don't want to depend on other people necessarily to a high extent. The wider you go, the more individualism you want. You don't want other people controlling you. Like, if your sibling or family member, direct family member, has some control over you, you don't really like it. Much more if a neighbor in your village has control over you. Much more if somebody living in West Moorings has control over you. Much more if somebody living in Helsinki in Sweden has control over you. The further it goes, the worse that idea gets. The further away from you it gets, collectivism becomes a worse idea. So I agree with that. Down with collectivism. Power to the people. All right, folks, that's all I have for now. I hope you're educated, informed, or entertained. This has been the Mindful Live. Head over to Instagram, follow us at Mindful Education for those homeschooling, learning pods, and private tutoring classes. We're getting booked up as the school season and school term comes to an opening. You know, it's always a thing with lessons and classes and learning and education that people coming closer to the exam time, more and more people come in, and it kind of tells you something. Many people aren't interested in educating or learning. They're interested in just getting a certification for passing something, which isn't. It's a bad way for education to be. But c'est la vie. C'est la vie, people. All right. Bye, folks. Laters. It was nice. I'll see you guys again for the next Mindful Live.